Welcome to sponge painting. We're going to sponge painting an autumn tree tonight. And I just want to start out by saying that while I've been sponge painting for many years, I did get this lesson, the basis for this lesson online. And when I went to find out who I could give credit to, the person had taken their channel down. So I can't give them credit because I don't know who they are. But anyway, we're getting out all of our supplies. We've got our paints lined up. And when you're sponge painting, all I did was cut up some sponges, some cellulose sponges. We've got our palette here. We've got some stick in case we need to mix some paint, pencil, and this is the found object that we're calling a found object. It's a cut up ruler. You could also use a credit card, something that's stable and won't disintegrate in the water. So the first thing we're going to do, the thing that's just a little bit different, we're setting up our palette. And by that, I mean we're setting up all our paints and laying them out. We've got some water here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wet down some of the sponges and then squeeze them out. And you know what's one thing we forgot that we assumed everybody had at home, and I don't think we have them in our supply bags, is a little rag to wipe some of the extra paint on, but I think we will go ahead without it tonight. We're okay, but it's important to keep a rag near you just in case you spill something or some tissue. So my wonderful friend here, Shaniqua, is going to go get something for us to have. So while she's gone, what I want us to do is we are drawing and painting, which drawing and painting are interchangeable in this case, and we're starting out with a canvas board. And it's 9 by 12 and it's pre-painted with a sky blue because we had some other things on here that we wanted to use again. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch in a real simple tree just to get an idea of where the paint's going to go, because in sponge painting, instead of brushes, we're using the sponges. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put the paint directly onto the canvas before then we'll paint with it. But we want to get an idea of where to put the paint. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a big tree, and this is just a simple sketch. And we're making this the focus of the entire canvas here, and put in a horizon line, okay? Again, you may not need to do that, but I thought I'd go ahead and do it for the purposes of this demonstration. Now, we've got our palette here. We've got yellow, greens, blues, and browns. And we've got a little black here in case we need to deepen up any of the colors, like maybe a little bit deeper green or a little bit deeper brown. So I see Miss Shaniqua's come back with some paper towels. So that's awesome. So we'll have some paper towels here too. So I just said that you had gotten that. That's awesome. Thank you so much. We've got our paper towels. We're going to move them in closer. We'll put them right over here in case we need them. And rip off one. Maybe two. Awesome. So here we go. So the first one we're going to the lesson was set up to do a mostly yellow tree. So trees change all different colors, but we're going into the assumption that the tree that we're doing is a yellow one. So as I said before, we're going to put this paint directly onto the canvas. We're going to dip it on. Dip it on is not really the right word. We're going to group it on. What word to use here? So I'll put some here into here, all around here. And then I forgot to do something that's not too late to do. I just didn't do it in order. I'm going to see how I'm rolling up the paint to get as much as I can out of it. I'm going to get that ready to go. We might use it again. We might use that up. I forgot that we're going to put some blue into the sky that's already this color blue, if that makes any kind of sense. Well, it's a little bit darker, I believe. And the reason I'm going to do that is it's going to give some of the same kind of depth that the paint that we use on the tree is going to give it. Rather than have this just be a totally smooth surface, we're going to paint this with our sponge. And I'll go ahead and show you that first. So here we go. I'm going to take the big sponge. And I'm going to start blocking in the sky. And this way, with the sponge, it lets light in. See all the little different light blue in the background? It lets the light in, which is what's so kind of fun about it. And it kind of mimics those impressionistic paintings that we're so used to seeing. So I really could have just done this and then left room for the outline of the tree. Okay. And I guess a little of the paint goes a long way. And I'm really glad that I wet the sponge first. See how it kind of accepts the background shape a little bit better. So what I'm going to do, and I'm really glad you got those towels, Shanika. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rinse out my sponge. Kind of like this big one. I guess I could switch over to the little ones when I do some highlights, but I'm going to squeeze out all the paint. I'm going to turn it over too, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint the yellow now. So I'm not going to make the tree totally rounded edges like I had it. This way, with the paint on there of the blue, it kind of blends into the background. And we're getting a little green effect, and that's okay, because when the trees do change, and you pick up a yellow leaf, there's no doubt going to be a little bit of green still on there. Alrighty. I'm going to kind of go up a little higher and make it more of a pear shape, have it go into the sky a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to turn this around again like this, as you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to put some more blue down here. Okay. So we're putting it into our horizon line. Make it a little bit darker around the border of the tree. And again, we're just blocking in some of our basic colors. I'm going to go ahead and I'm rinsing out the sponge. Keep this over here. Well, I'll manage to get it on myself. That's why I wore a white blouse. Okay. I'm going to build up I'm going to block in all the basic colors. So the next thing I want to do is get kind of green horizon line in here. And I'm going to see if we have another shade of green. If this green doesn't do it, we might mix. Well, that's a lighter shade. That would work. And brown for the ground. And I'm not going to worry about, I've got a lighter brown over here. Aha, this is a new tube. Here's some lighter brown. Some of my finger. Oops. And some darker brown. And if we didn't have a darker brown, we could just take the lighter and put a little black in it, and that would make it a nice shade. We're going to pretend the sun's back here, so it's kind of casting a shadow. Yeah, I'm making a mess, but that's okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sponge this in. Ooh. That's the beauty of the sponge, is that it takes the paint and kind of, it's not solid. It lets the light in, and that is a nice effect. And I probably put a little bit too much here, but there's a very fancy word for that, and it's called impasto. It's an Italian term from the Renaissance, and it means the paint is very thick, and you can see the movement of the artist as they painted. So some of you might be familiar with Van Gogh, and Van Gogh had a really thick impasto going when he painted. You can see the big swirls in the night sky and all that. So that's impasto. And don't worry, we'll wipe it off the table. That's a nice part about acrylic or water-based paint. Now, I'm going to go ahead and squeeze this out again. I'm going to leave this in here for a little bit and kind of soak the sponge. I want to make a brown that's even darker. Well, I'm going to check out my darkest brown, and this is where I'm going to use the black a little bit. So I'm going to put a little bit of black in my palette. Just a teeny bit, a little bit goes a long way. And then I'm going to take my darkest brown and I'm going to put it in there. And I'm going to put in a bunch because I'm going to move it over onto the canvas before I paint it. So if we had a brush, we would dip our brush and go like that. But I'm going to probably move it over one of my fingers, or probably be more civilized. These are the sticks here. So I'm going to go ahead and stir. And let's see if that brown gets. Oh, I want it a little bit darker. Because if you look at in nature, there is no really pure black. Some dirt approaches it, some soil approaches it. But if you start using black, a lot of black, it kind of dulls out your colors. But I want a really deep brown. And the bark of many trees is almost black looking. If you really, some of it no, and depending upon what time of the year it is. So I'm going to take some of this. I'm going to get our found object, or a straight edge, our found straight edge. And I'm going to put some on here. Okay, I'm just if I had a palette or a plate or something, I could put it on there. Now, this is, I'm going to put in the trunk. And I'm not going to do, what I'm doing really is drawing lines with the straight edge, part of the found object. Well, I'm going to save that to the side. I want to put in some more, I want to build up some more yellow. So I want to put in some darker shades of yellow and some lighter shades of yellow. So here's some darker shades. I'm going to have it be dark towards the bottom and lighter towards the top. All right, and this is the yellow that I use. We'd call it like a cadmium yellow medium. This is a cadmium yellow light, or some call it lemon yellow. Okay, so we're going to build up some more impasto. Kind of sounds like a dish, something to eat. I'll take the smaller sponge. I like the way that it's darker on the bottom. Now I'm bringing some of the color into the sky so it looks more leafy. And in a moment, I am going to go ahead and use my found object straight edge, and I'm going to put in a few more branches maybe. And I'm taking away that perfectly round, I'm trying to take away that perfectly round kind of thing I had going. Not perfect, but trying just to make it look more realistic and having the leaves go into the sky. So now let's do this thing again. I want some branches, just a couple, that go into and out of the tree. And the thing about painting a lot of times is kind of knowing when to stop. I have a feeling we'll be stopping pretty soon. I probably should have put in some more brown in the background, so I'm going to do that right now. Some medium tone brown before I did the really dark stuff. But that's okay. That'll work out. Okay. I kind of like the way that brown went on there. So I'm gonna leave it for a minute. I might add a little bit more brown. It almost looks like plants growing or something like that. So I'm gonna get my new sponge over here, and I pre-wet. If you remember, I wet these first, and then I squeezed out the moisture, and it's much easier to deal with them if they're a little bit wet. Yeah, that's sort of more impressionistic. So now I'm gonna take some of this brown. I'm gonna get a little bit of darker brown in there, just a little bit. And I'm going to add some plants, or kind of looking like another layer of maybe some leaves, or it just seems like it's adding a little bit more interest. Okay, I'm going to put some of this color into the tree too. Some like lighter. So you can't go wrong on this. And in other words, you just start experimenting with it. And the biggest thing to remember is to put the paint onto the canvas instead of putting you mean, for certain effects, you can put your sponge in here and then bring it over. But the biggest difference is putting your paint right on there and sponging away. So I'm making it a little bit darker down here. And I don't want to do that too much, just a little bit. And I have to tell you, I think we're almost done. I think what I'm going to do is mix up a little bit of really lighter blue. So I'll start with some white. And I make a big mess when I paint. If some people like to keep everything really neat, and that's fine, that's good, but it's like I can't think about it. I just got to keep. All right, I'm gonna put a little, just a touch of this, just a tad of the blue. Okay, and I think this ends pretty clear. So I'm gonna dip it into the white, dip it into the blue, dip it into the white, and then I'm gonna go around, kind of add some interest in the sky, like maybe it's sunnier over here, and then I did say the sun was, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna have it be lighter over here. See how that looks. This over here. And if I didn't like that, all I'd have to do, put some blue over it, the original blue that we used. And I suppose it wouldn't hurt to have any more sponges if you didn't want to keep rinsing them out. Using my rag. I think that's a little bit more what I was looking for. All right, I'm just about ready to stop. I'm gonna put in a little bit of white over here, so it's a little bit lighter on the horizon line. And I'm going to put in a little bit more dark. I'm just going to use a stick. Huh. And I'm going to call it quits on that one. So that is sponge painting with acrylics directly on to a canvas board. And thank you for listening.